Hey, this is Alan with GameLark Remixes, and I'm here with String Player Gamer. Say hello.
Hey,
So, thank you for taking the time and talking with me.
sure.
And I got some questions for you, so we'll get started.
All right.
How did you get into scoring for movies, film scoring?
Well, it's kind of a long story, but the short story is I still have a band that performs kind of a Philippine cultural traditional music, something like close to what you hear in a Filipino version of maybe Asian music,
Hmm.
something like that. And a film producer saw us perform and they liked it. So they asked us to do a music for their small film, a small project in one of the local film festivals. And it started with that in 2006. And eventually, since I'm actually in my band, I'm the guy behind the music. I'm the one who's doing the arrangements and compositions.
Hmm.
Eventually, the responsibility of film scoring eventually fell on me. And since 2006, I've been accepting solo film projects and until today. And it's kind of my day job. I do films and TV commercials and sometimes TV shows as well.
Okay. And how did you get into making video game covers?
Yes, that's a more interesting story because 1980, I was born 1980 and Super Mario Brothers, I think, was released 1987 or 1986.
Mm.
And and that was the era of Nintendo Entertainment System. I was one of the first, I think we are one of the first people to play Nintendo.
Yeah.
There's a certain fascination to video games that develop at me at a young age. And maybe our grown-up parents or other grown-ups will say, "Hey, that's just nonsense. Those are just games." But at the age of 7 or 8, I thought to myself, maybe there's a future in video games. Maybe there's something we can do to make a living playing video games or playing video game music or something to that effect.
Hmm.
So yeah, I developed a really intense passion for anything that's related to video games at a very young age, and I still have that passion until now.
Very cool.
So I when I finished my degree in College of Music, a composition major in College of Music in the University of the Philippines, I still think about video games. Is there something I can do? Is there something I can do to combine music and video games in such a way that it's still dignified and I can still earn something out of it? Not maybe not money, but something like recognition or at least a sort of audience. And then I discovered YouTube, and the rest is history.
And here you are. Yeah, and it seems like looking back at your older videos, like there was a channel progression where things, you started doing, multiple camera angles and video editing started getting more complicated, and then Mini
Yeah, big
Mario
mistakes.
Orchestra. How did you come up with that idea for the Mini Mario stuff?
Yeah, it's actually a sort of accidental idea because I had another video game cover, Guild Wars 2,
Okay.
a cover of Guild Wars 2, and one of the one of the shots, it looked empty for me. It looked a bit plain. So I wanted to fill it up with other images or other performers. So I recorded myself in an improvised Mario costume, not even with a mustache. So I just recorded myself playing bass and playing other violin parts with the Mario costume, but it was minimized, like a small part of the video,
Mm-hmm.
and there were still other main performers. And I realized, hey, why don't I make those small Marios into a thing, something like an orchestra? So there you have it. So I just realized, hey, this random idea, this could lead to something.
Yeah,
So Mini Mario Orchestra.
I like it. And now, have you composed for any video games yet, or is it just film and TV and film and TV?
Yeah, I still there are still the video game industry in this country in the Philippines and in Asia in general, except for Japan and Korea, of course. The video game industry is still slowly being accepted as part of the mainstream industry.
Oh, okay.
So there aren't really any good opportunities yet for video game musicians or video game composers to get into professional jobs. But there are certain sporadic companies that produce like a random iPhone game, a random iOS app that needs some sound effects or some little music. So I get hired here and there, but it's nothing big like, for example, Angry Birds or
Yeah.
Farmville. Nothing like those yet. But I think the time will come. It will eventually come here.
So if any game developers are watching this, then they need to contact you. You're available.
Yeah, because I think for now the game development industry in the Philippines is mostly outsourcing. So for example, I think one of the most popular services that the game developers here offer is motion capture and animation. We have very good animators here and motion capture studios, and they usually get hired by Sony or other video game companies from Japan, for example, and they outsource the motion capture and the animation parts in the companies that are based here in the Philippines.
Okay. So here's the tough question for the interview. You ready?
Yeah.
Which
sure.
do you like more, film scoring or making video game covers? And you gotta pick one.
I think it's like two different sides of the coin actually, but I don't know what kind of coin. On one hand, film scoring is a more free medium. There's more freedom because mostly in film scoring you are composing super extended versions of your own music. You are maybe composing for a 10-minute scene where you have to fill every gap with sort of a music stinger or a emotional music. And there's some sort of freedom because you don't really have to be the one responsible for the success or the failure of the film.
Okay, that makes sense.
Most of the time, if a film is successful, the director or the actor or the lead actress gets the credit. If the film fails, the director or the lead actor and actress still also gets the credit. So the musicians and the music score were still always in the background. So there's this sort of non-pressure or some sort of cathartic environment for me where I just get to do an extended form of my music that will serve the vision of the director or the vision of the film. But I don't really have to be responsible for anything else aside from the music. So if the film got bad reviews, most of the time it's blamed on the director, not really on the music. So
Gotcha.
There's this sort of freedom that I can express myself in films. Whereas in video game covers, it's, for example, as a YouTube video game cover artist, everything falls on me. So if I screw up a video game cover, or if, for example, I did not please a certain fan of Super Mario Brothers or Legend of Zelda, hey, that's the wrong note or that's the wrong key or whatever, everything is blamed on me. So there's more pressure as a YouTube video game cover artist than as a film scoring professional. And both have their pros and cons, but I love them both.
Gotcha. That's a very good answer.
In video games, I get to be whatever I want to be, and if it's good, I get the credit. if it fails, I still get the credit.
I'm
So
guessing.
there's very different factors, but I love them both.
Yeah.
Not sure if it's equal love, but I love them both.
That's a good answer, though. But you don't get to dress up when you're doing film scoring, do you? You don't get to dress up in costumes for that?
No, no, no.
All right. So that. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Because film scoring, you're just really in the background, even in interviews, even in press events. I don't even attend the press events anymore because most of the time they'll just interview. The reporters just want to interview the actors. They
Mhm.
just want to question the directors, and the film scorers were just drinking booze at the background.
All right. Well, that kind of leads into my next question, or two questions, I guess, which would be, what are your most favorite parts about doing YouTube, and what are your least favorite parts?
Okay, my favorite parts, of course, is the community. The community is very proactive. Sometimes they can be passionate, and sometimes they can be over passionate. It's a balance. I think it's a balancing act of being too passionate or just the right amount of passion. But the good thing is, the best thing in for me is I get to be the boss of whatever I do.
Mm-hmm.
No one tells me what to do, and nobody else told me that I do this or I do that. But it's just me. But the bad thing, maybe I don't know if it's a bad thing, but I think one of the one of the negative parts of the video game community in YouTube sometimes is there's sometimes too much competition, not with the musicians themselves, but sometimes with the fans. And
Okay.
sometimes they would compare an artist to another, like, no, Smooth McGroove did this better. No, he did this better. No, somebody else did this better. But the artists themselves, they're just chill. I don't have a problem with Smooth McGroove. I'm a big fan of him. But sometimes his fans or other a cappella fans, they like to compare my a cappella recordings to his recordings. But I like his recordings, and I just do my own thing. But sometimes the fans themselves get too over aggressive
On
with
YouTube, really, really?
sometimes, like, I don't know, but they like to have this. No, if it's not Smooth McGroove or if it's not Lindsey Sterling, I don't like it. I don't care how good or how great his idea is. If it's not them, I don't like it. Something like that.
So the best thing about YouTube is YouTube, and the worst thing about YouTube is YouTube.
The community can be great. The community can also sometimes be some sort of douche.
Awesome.
But it is what it is, so I just live with it. And
Yeah.
sometimes I just don't care anymore. I just do what I like for myself, and if other people like it, then great. If you don't like it, okay, no problem.
It's a good mentality. Speaking of YouTubers, do you have any specific artists that you're a big fan of? Anybody else that you like really admire or respect their work?
Yeah, maybe for the big names, of course, there's Smooth McGroove, Lindsey Sterling, Taylor Davis, and Peter Hollins. Yeah, those four are one of my inspirations and models in terms of, not just in terms of musical arrangement and musical ideas, but also in terms of how they market themselves and how they promote themselves. Because, for example, of course, Lindsey Sterling got her own boost thanks to that audition in American Idol, or was it was it America's Got Talent? Anyway, and Smooth McGroove, of course, he's found this certain formula that really works for him, and he's stuck with it all out.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't even deviate a little. He just really sticks to that a cappella formula of his, and it works well for him. And that for me is very inspiring because he just really built something out of nothing.
Yeah.
It's just him, his cat, and his microphone, and nothing else. Taylor Davis, on the other hand, I like how she developed her channel and really grew into this bigger name in violinists in YouTube. Lindsey Sterling and Taylor Davis, I think those are the two big violinists now in YouTube. And Peter Hollins, I think Peter Hollins is like what they say, he is the Bradley Cooper of YouTube acapellas. But yeah, I think he has developed a really nice style that really works for him as well. Because, for example, Smooth McGroove really follows every single note of a video game music to the letter.
Mhm.
And Peter Hollins, he also does a cappella music, but he has his own arrangements. He adds certain twists to popular songs, and he adds his own flavor and his own insight. It also becomes some sort of new composition in itself.
Mhm.
But you can still recognize it from the original. And he also likes to dress a lot of costumes. It's also one of my inspirations for costumes. But when it comes to those YouTubers now who are more sort of under the radar,
Mhm.
I like to work and I like to watch the works of, for example, Michelle Hayfie, Terra C Music, uh, Peter, Sounddole VGM covers, Insane in the Rain Music, Jay Parecki 95, Mikla Chu, and Tetrimino Band, of course.
Mhm.
And who else did I miss? Yeah, Lady Game Lyric with her lyrical genius. Yeah, there are so many other YouTubers that I like to work with and to watch with. Yeah, there's also Swiggles and so many. But most of the time, the names I mentioned, not only are they talented, but they are also approachable people, and they mostly like to agree instantly. Hey, you want to do a collaboration? Yeah, okay, let's do it. And because I love to collaborate with other YouTubers, of course, if there was a chance I could collaborate with a big name YouTuber, of course I would take the chance. But there's also some sort of, in my observation, I think there's some sort of a, I don't know if it's a barrier or if it's some sort of status symbol.
Mhm.
But most of the YouTubers would only collaborate with those who have a similar number of subscribers. But I also think it's fair because you get what you want and they get also what they want with an almost equal amount at least. But with the smaller YouTubers, I think it also works in the same way because, for example, if a guy has 5,000 subscribers and another guy has only like 200 subscribers, it might not be fair for the guy with the larger number because the smaller number would definitely be benefiting more.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's an equal or a similar amount, they can at least focus on the music itself and not worrying about, hey, will his subscribers subscribe to me or will something like that. So
So
I think that's the number of subscribers, although not a lot of YouTubers like to talk about it. I think it's become some sort of a status symbol of sorts. That's in my observation, at least. But regardless of that, for example, in my experience, I like to collaborate with YouTubers who are, number one, very approachable and have their own distinct style. because if they don't have their own distinct style and they just like to copy everyone else, they might not have that sort of um, improvised, some sort of spontaneity
Mm-hmm.
when they collaborate with me. Wow, that's a mouthful. Sorry.
No, it's a great answer. So I think, yeah, I mean, it is an interesting community in the fact that there's like people collaborating. Um, one of the collaborations that I thought was interesting was Rashad Eb and Carlos and Stay in the Rain Music. They collaborated together for a song, which was just two totally different genres. And that's, I think, some of my favorite collaborations is when you have people from just opposite ends of the musical spectrum, and yet somehow they come together and create something that's like different and unique and new. But um,
Yeah, exactly.
speaking of collaborations, you were on Materia, which was the behemoth, gigantic, enormous, any other word that describes big album that came out. Can you talk a little bit about maybe getting like how you were approached and how you did One Winged Angel? So One Winged Angel was amazing.
Thank
Obviously,
you.
the costumes were great, and the album itself was I think, a huge success. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think this was all inspired by the announcement of Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Okay.
Right, right after that E3 announcement, one of the producers, Sebastian Wolf, just posted a random status message on his Facebook page. Hey guys, do you like to do a Final Fantasy tribute album now that it's gonna be remade? And one guy replied, "Okay, I'm game." And I replied, and then another guy replied, another musician replied, because his friends are mostly YouTube musicians and music producers in the video game industry. And I think I was just lucky enough to be one of his Facebook friends because of his work in Louder.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm a Louder artist, and uh, it's because of that I saw his status message, and I said, "Hey, I'm in." So he created a Facebook group called Materia. I think it was different name before, but he created that, and just so many people jumped in until we ballooned to like 250 musicians. And everyone was just like, "I want to make One Wing Angel, I want to make Aerith's theme, I want to make the battle theme." So instead of people fighting over ownership of one song, he just let everyone else choose whichever song that they like to do, even if there will be repeating songs.
Mm-hmm.
Only in his condition that you at least do varying styles. So if 5 people want to do the Aerith theme, there's going to be one ballad type, one electronica type, or one jazz, or one Latin
Mm-hmm.
music style. So it's under that condition that now it ballooned to 5 CDs and 5 hours of music.
Yeah.
If you will notice, there are some repeating songs, but that's okay. It was meant to be like that because, for example, there's one the main theme for the battle theme,
Mm-hmm.
and there's one a cappella version, then there's one piano version, and there's a string quartet version. You choose whichever you want.
Makes sense. So it sounds like it was a lot of fun and just a very collaborative process.
Yeah, so much fun, and the musicians involved are just so in love with the idea of Final Fantasy being remade. And we are kind of piggybacking on the hype of remake.
Mm-hmm.
So at that spur of the moment, everyone was like, "Yeah, remake, remake, let's make an album." And then Sebastian Wolf posted that status message, and everyone just flocked to him. Okay, okay, you do it. You lead the production, and he volunteered to be the producer, and he's actually a very, very good producer, and he's very organized, and he's takes care of all our needs. I think it's also an advantage that he's one of the founders of Louder.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's that.
But no, I mean, even still, that's got to be incredibly hard to produce and to, coordinate that many artists and songs.
I can imagine.
So, moving on, I wanted to talk lastly about your Castlevania medley, because this is something that you've been working on for a while, or you had been working on for a while, and it's finally out. Can you talk about maybe like the initial concept to, coming up with the costumes, or whatever you want to talk about? Are you glad it's out and it's done, or relieved?
It was only really because whenever I finish a big medley, for example, in last year's Legend of Zelda medley, which was 30 minutes, I usually do a poll in my Facebook page. Hey guys, I just finished this medley, so which big medley do you like? So I asked them to choose between Street Fighter, Castlevania, and Chrono Cross. And everyone likes Castlevania. Okay, I'll do Castlevania because that's what you want. But of course, I only asked them to choose what I also like to do. It's not just some random franchise that I asked them to choose between.
Right.
So when Castlevania was chosen by votes, majority of the votes, okay, I'll do Castlevania. And I wanted it to be a Halloween special for that same year. But then I realized the Castlevania music is much more complicated than Zelda or Mario's. Because most of the music from Castlevania is actually rooted in classical and Baroque music and music of that era. So most of the styles and the structures are more complicated than the usual happy tunes of Mario or the grand epic tunes of Zelda. So it needed a lot more time for me to grow and to come up with right ideas for a more seamless arrangement. And I didn't want it to become 30 minutes again because I said to myself, I will only do a 30-minute medley for Zelda because Zelda is like the epitome of video game music. So for Castlevania, I only wanted it to be like 9 minutes or 8 minutes. But I realized there are also so many good music selections from just the old Castlevania games, not even from the Lords of Shadow, not even from those newer games. I just chose from the first Castlevania game until Symphony of the Night, PlayStation 1. That's it. Because with just that selection alone, there's so many ideas that I could do. So I just stuck to the old school style. And even then, I still had a hard time because it's just a more complex style of music. And sometimes I just really took my time and I didn't even realize that it was almost 6 months of me thinking of this and that, planning plan A and plan B and plan C. Until, okay, it didn't make it to this year's Halloween. So I'll just make a Kingdom Hearts a cappella video instead. And I was also stalled by the fact that there were certain pieces in the songs I chose. There was 22 songs that I used in the medley. Around 2 to 3 of those, I had a hard time thinking of a proper arrangement because they were just sometimes they were too simple or they were too complicated that they wouldn't fit in the general arrangement that I had for the other songs. But long story short, almost 10 months of thinking and arranging. And finally, by the 11th month, everything just came together in my mind, and I just rushed everything because everything was already in. All the ideas and all the plans were already ripe in my mind, and so I just said, "Okay, let's do it. I'll just rush everything because I already know what to do. It's not already something that I don't have any idea what to do. I already know what to do. So I started sketching for video ideas. I started I started doing some storyboards in my notebook and started, hey, how about this? How about I wear a costume like this? How about
Mm-hmm.
I wear Simon Belmont cosplay? And I realized cosplaying as Simon Belmont is also a hard thing to do because he has so much armor and
Yeah.
shoulder pads. So I just wait. I just settled for it. I'll just use a trench coat and a headband. That's it. But yeah, so the medley took a little while because also aside from other projects, that music itself is complicated, and it's not like a simple idea there where for example, like a Mario piece. I can just wear my Mario costume and play the music, and that's it.
Right.
But in Castlevania, there are so many ideas that you can use. Like, is Dracula going to appear? Is Medusa going to appear? Are you going to cosplay as Frankenstein's monster as well? But I scrapped all those ideas for a simpler approach to the video, but with, of course, always as always, complex approach to the music.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I think that about wraps it up. Do you have anything you want to say to your fans, the Stringies, if any of them are watching?
Yeah. So thank you very much, always, Stringies, and to all the possible new fans, and to all the followers of GameLark remixes. You rock, dudes and dudettes. Thank
Awesome.
you very much for tuning in, and good luck to everything.
Thank you. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, I'll see you next time.
Thank you.